Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS Podcast, the Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. I am one of your co hosts, Aaron, hidden behind Regidrago V there, and I'm joined once again by my good friend, Michael. I would like to make an announcement that we will not have a formal episode out next week due to the holidays, scheduling conflicts. I'm still thinking of maybe something to get out of there if we don't have our baby by then, but we'll see. That or I'll just do some stream or just hanging out with whomever I can. On today's episode, we're going to cover another dominant performance by Regidrago V-Star up in Toronto, our next full set released in March, and our top 5 most hated decks that we would have played against in this calendar year of 2024. Michael, the holidays are fast approaching. How was your trip up to New York?
The holidays are fast approaching indeed. Pretty crazy. We were just looking at the kids' countdown little construction paper things where you pull one off like the old school days when we were kids. We do
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we still do that. I love the traditions of the holiday season. But no, holiday season's going well. We were just in New York City over the weekend. My work, we have a main office in New York City, kind of in the financial district. So was there Friday night, or we got in early Friday. Was there Friday night for a holiday party? And then we spent the weekend in New York City. We've been in New York City quite a bit at this point, so it's not like we do a ton of touristy things. We went and saw Hamilton on Broadway Saturday afternoon, which is fantastic. It's easily one of my favorite musicals, and that was the first time I've actually gotten to see it live,
Nice.
which is awesome. It's amazing. So if you've never seen Hamilton and you're into musicals, um, absolutely recommend it. And then we got to experience some cool eats and coffee and typical things like that. And of course, no good trip to New York City in the holidays would be without going to see the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center. So we did that. Yeah. Overall, a really great weekend. And it was kidless, which was even cooler because we haven't had one of those days since Hayden, our youngest, was born almost 2 years ago. So
Oh,
a
wow.
kidless weekend away was awesome. We did find out, however, we knew going away Graham was getting sick. But then over the weekend it got worse. And then so today Caitlin took him, who's our oldest, Graham's our oldest, took him to the doctor and found out he has the flu. Um, so yeah, it's our typical pre-Christmas sickness that goes through the house every single year this time of year. So we're making it. Graham's in good spirits. Hayden is in good spirits. We're all in good spirits. Um, the flu's just a bummer to happen this time of year, but not too bad. But other than
It's a,
that, pretty simple, quiet week. Things are wrapping down at work, and I start my end of year shutdown on the 20th, so next Friday, and I won't go back to work
oh,
until the 2nd of January, which is amazing.
oh, look at
Yeah,
you.
I'm
Nice.
fortunate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm fortunate to have. We get a pretty extensive shutdown for work, and then I take like a couple days here and there, just to wrap up the year of PTO and all that. So it'll be nice to not have to go back to work. My mom's coming to town on Thursday, which is another reason why we're not going to be recording. My studio is going to be turned into my mom's room while she's here. So unfortunately, won't be able to make that happen. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's great. I love this time of year.
Yeah, understandable. Did you have some snow up in New York?
No, we missed out on the snow.
Okay.
I don't even think we got. No, we didn't get any rain there. It was certainly cold enough to snow.
Just
I think like the high both days
yeah.
were low 30s.
Okay.
But I love the cold weather, which is funny. I live in the South, but I love the cold weather. Um, so yeah, no snow, but I thought it was fantastic. Did get to
Okay.
do a lot of street photography while I was there, though. It's just something I've picked back up over the last couple months, and so I'm pretty excited to work through and edit some of those pictures as I go along.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You mentioned illnesses, and that is a theme. So if my voice gives out or cracks a little bit, uh, no, I'm not going through puberty. It's just drinking some tea before the thing. So for those that came for the memes of me cracking open a bush light or making an old
bush
fashioned
latte.
or yeah, or making like a Moscow mule or having some wine, I would. But illnesses is also the running theme with our family as well. Last it was probably like Friday. I thought Archer was or I thought her son was acting a little bit different, and so, but anyway, normal stuff. He went over to my mother in law's house and they made Christmas cookies, and then Saturday we spent all day like trying to get everything ready for the baby. So I know I was insulating the baby's rooms. We have some newer windows in this house that we moved into 2.5 years ago, but some older ones. So you can definitely feel the draftiness when it's pretty cold and windy is the biggest thing. So just doing that, carpet cleaning, shampooing the carpets, all that sort of stuff. And so I had originally planned to go up to Minnesota to play my last local game store, league challenge before who knows, April, May, maybe if I'm lucky. But Mother Nature intervened. It was kind of like sleeting and right around that freezing point, and then it just kind of got progressively colder. And they don't start till 4 o'clock, and normally it's 4-ish rounds typically is going unless there's a whole bunch of college kids back or whatever like that. But I made the executive decision that would probably be unwise because it was going to be a very, very slow trek home,
Yeah.
also with some ice. So ended up not getting to do that. And then Sunday, I could kind of tell my voice was starting to scratch a little bit. My wife did not feel very good. And then this morning, he went into daycare. And then, of course, we got the call of, hey, you got to come get him. He's running a temp. So no throw up, thankfully, nothing like that. I know that is usually the worst with they just don't know how to handle it, and puke is just overall never fun for anyone. But
No, it's
none of
not.
that. Just
Yeah.
very, very warm and a little bit more clingy, right? Kind of have to be touching mom or dad at all
Yep.
times. So one of those things. So we're grinding through it. And then Friday night again, I opened up the PCS Discord. We just did a best of one, um, you know, tournament. Drew ended up winning with a Terapagos Noctal Miascarada home cooked brew that he played.
Nice.
Played it very well. I ended up playing Blood Moon, the Baby Blood Moon, and then the Iron Valiant with the switching and stuff like that, and going through. And when you hit a supporter, it's amazing how much fun that deck is. But then when you're just praying for a supporter and then you don't get it, don't really do much. You can do a switch or a retreat, obviously, with the Iron Valiant EXs, but it was fun. We had, I think, 5 of us again. Yeah, I think we had, or then 6. We had Aiden join. He just missed the check in, so we had 5, and then ended up playing. And then last night I was planning to do a webcam GLC because I wanted to do something with physical cards, but I kind of did the old dad thing where I fell asleep rewatching the Toronto final, and then had to wake myself up and then go back to where I snoozed off. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to passing out in a recliner on a Sunday evening.
Oh yeah.
And then my Pokemon Black update, I was able to play a little bit, but it was just more so like clearing routes. It's kind of those one things right before the last gym and then the hike to Victory Road and stuff. I have to also go battle Cobalion, Terrakion. I don't know if I have to progress the storyline, but that's just what I found in the guide. So I was kind of doing some leveling up there before the big trek in. But we had a regional this past weekend, Michael, in
We
the
did.
country up north of America, Toronto. It did eclipse over 2,048 players, so there were 9 rounds. But boy, did King Reginald come through for me once again, getting its 4th major dub. Quite remarkable, particularly the top cut. But before we get there, let's see what the meta actually looked like. And in day one, where do you see things lined up?
Yeah. So I don't remember what. I have to go back and look at our notes. I forgot to do that before this. I don't remember what we predicted to be the breakdown, but I do think you were more correct. I believe you said that the highest percentage deck would be around 12, 13. I think I was 10 or 11%. So kudos to you on predicting that. And lo and behold, it was in fact Regidrago. And I might have to go back and correct my least favorite deck lists for later today because I'm
We
getting
got some
really,
time.
yeah. Maybe I'll add that as an amendment to it in a little bit. But Regidrago right there at the top, 13% of the meta. Then shortly behind, or close behind, was Charizard at just under 12%. Then Goldango at 7.1. Raging Bolt at 6.5. The wild horse of the year of the season so far, Cloth, still making the top 6 of the meta share, coming in at 5.9%, and then Maridon made it on the top 6 for day one. So I don't if you would have asked me 3 months ago if I would have expected to see Goldango, Cloth, and Maridon at the top of a meta share, I would tell you you're probably lying. But here we are. They all three are there, and pretty impressive too. Both, all three of them are really solid decks, and obviously Maridon's gotten some buffs, Cloth has gotten some buffs, and Goldango is really riding high with the new A spec too. So
Yeah, it's funny, like you kind of get the pairings of like the main attacker and then the support Pokemon, and
mm-hmm.
then Golden Golden Ghost just the energy search pro,
A
which
spec,
is true. I suppose you
yeah,
could include like Togekiss because that
right,
is kind of how. But I was actually generally shocked to see Golden go at 7% is the third most. But I guess that there's
yeah,
such a rise in Charizard. I figured Charizard has kind of always been around kind of that 10 to 8%. Um, and of course, I said nothing over 13, and of course, Regidrago is 13.1. So just had to dig it into me there just by a little bit. But it was kind of the talk within the scene of Raging Bolt, kind of slowly tricking down the list because the other decks just are getting better, right? We
yep.
saw Gardevoir do very well in Australia. So kind of the return of a single prize deck a la the Cloth and the mini one of supporters. And then I actually was kind of surprised to see Maridon was there because Lugia, like I said, has really fallen off. And with the rise of Cloth, I just didn't feel like maybe Maridon was really it, kind of taking the backseat to the carousel. But again, I don't know what it is. In North America, we do not get the best of the rest, but then in the Europe streams, we get best of the rest. So I don't know if that's just like a production line thing. I
Yeah,
generally
I'm not
don't know,
sure.
but I'm always curious why we don't get it in America and then in Europe we do. But
Mm-hmm.
I digress. Nothing really completely out of ordinary. We talked about Cloth was just continuing to get that wave of momentum, but it seemed like the top players elected to sleeve up Regidrago as opposed to Cloth. So, and as we know, where the top player kind of contingent lies is usually kind of what the rest of it is. But if you want to go to the day two
Yep.
and go over the conversion rates, pretty remarkable to say
Yeah,
the least.
absolutely. We see Regidrago still holding the top of the meta share at 21% in day
Wild.
two. Um, I don't know. Is that the highest we've seen all season of the top deck in a meta share? It
Oh
feels
yes, in
like it.
day
Yeah,
yeah,
for
in
day
day
two.
two, there
Mm-hmm.
was because Terapagos went from nowhere to be found on the day one
Yeah,
sheet to number one, but it was not
not this
20 some odd
significant.
percent. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty heavy Drago meta in day two. Charizard held strong in the second position. And then we see a couple decks pop out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not surprising when the other decks in day one, like Golden Go, Cloth, and Maridon, it's one of those like they're the popular decks that you've been seeing a ton of people play online and have been doing well online. But maybe not the best players in the world playing those decks too. So that kind of just fell off to the wayside. And this is where you see the best players, the best of the best coming in. Snorlax Stall, it makes sense that it's here. Then in day two, I think it has a good, fair matchup into a lot of these other decks, minus Lugia, of course, which the fact that there's only 14 Lugias in day two, that's just a travesty. More people need to trust that Lugia is good, especially when Drago continues to win. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a Lugia stan, but Lugia's still good. Play Lugia. Guardy comes in at number 5, and then the newest way to play Dragapult, the newest and coolest, and I think the best way to play it, and obviously others do too. Iron Thorns Dragapult pops its way up into the day 2 top 6 meta share. So
Yeah,
um,
the top two remain, and then you get four brand new decks,
yep,
as Michael just went over, and it makes sense, right? Like Gardevoir, although the stream didn't really do it justice for that, but like we saw Azul's last money match, right? He had like the top Guardy players playing against some of the top Regidrago players out there, and Gardevoir won 4-1, and it like looked convincingly, right? But again, Gardevoir, if you're not seeing a buddy poffin or two, it's just struggled. And when it was on stream, you could see it still made the Regidrago V-Star, of course, always work for it, right? Because
yep,
Screamtail and Drifloon are just such a good attacker. They did come back and run. So this wasn't the exact like Henry Chow secret box list. A lot, and a good. We see Gardevoir because some of the top. It wasn't just Henry Chow, right? It seemed like he had a group of disciples also play, and they brought back the unfair stamp.
Yeah.
So if you're able to scream tail out their Pheasantipity and Iono them to very low, and they don't hit a top deck or off their Iono hitting 2 or 3 cards give you, they're not hitting the research, and by then usually they're just kind of down to energies. It's essentially in recovery cards. So pretty shocking. I guess I wasn't surprised to see Golden Go felt good, but again, maybe we just didn't see a top player
Right.
contingent really playing it, so it makes sense how it goes off. Golden Go is really fun to play, particularly this one because the Energy Search Pro. I would say there is still some lines of play just because it's pink and you can go grab all of them. Maybe not always the right decision. You kind of have to know what you need. And then Lugia, like I said, we talked on it where it was like feels like if Kieran and he was um, the lone
Yep.
Lugia in the ASIM, and he said it felt really bad because he was like, this felt,
Their bracket looked. Yeah.
yeah, bracket looked amazing, and he said he just had very, very, very bad bricks, and this is his hometown region. And he really, really wanted to win it, not only for himself but obviously for his country as well. And then Snorlax. I know they were talking on stream where I was like, oh, Regidrago's not that bad into it, but I was like, in my experience, and maybe I just get really bad hands. But if you put in the hands of Ian Robb, then of course Regidrago looks unbeatable versus control. But
Yeah.
and then Zard kind of makes sense because it
It's just
can
strong.
trade favorably, and it just when you have a stage 2 that can accelerate energies on the board, and then its damage just continues to creep up. Uh, like I said, and a lot more Manaphy this time around from what I was seeing in the single prizers. So, and then Pult Thorns, like I said, that was kind of the new ice cream flavor. I still think we'll get into Iron Thorns later in the show, but I still think that that's kind of the best way to play it.
Yeah.
And the Crispins make sense. Like, don't cut Crispins because that's how you get your attackers off, and then you use
Exactly.
the Iron Thorns to then accelerate back to your Dragloats or Dragapult, depending on when you're going through. So,
Yeah. It's a lot
yeah,
of good parity for sure.
the conversion of Regidrago that is a pretty dominant performance, particularly I would say basically since rotation probably like it's
Yeah,
probably
it's
has
been pretty consistent. Yeah.
yeah, it's just been pretty consistently in day 2 we're just not seeing a crazy big number. It's very split out, but this really pushed it over.
Yeah.
And then if you want to bring up we did have an ASIM cut, so there was 12 players that qualified, and then obviously we had some win-ins to pare down to the top 8. And the top 8 you should see here 6 Regidragos. It's almost as bad as the famous Palkia V Star 2022 regional down in Australia. That was pretty cool. But here, we had an undefeated Raging Bolt. I think that if I recall right, because again I kind of fast through the stream. I think they said he literally he got to 10-0 and he ID'd his last 3 times. So some of these Regidragos got in because he ID'd, right? He must have probably been looking ahead and be like, all right, I can just beat the top deck. And obviously he wanted as many Regidragos in top cut as possible. Then we have the one Pidgeot control, which seems to be well. Maybe the Stellax just kind of ran out of resources or didn't hit the right matchups. But I don't know if you look at this, I recognize quite a few big names. We have Lucas Singh,
Oh
who
yeah.
won obviously in LA last year. Christian Labella, which is a very young, promising Canadian player, and we'll get into him. Well, I'll just talk on him now. He has some of the most like what I recall of stream moments ever. So NAIC when it was like the Zacian V Guardy, and the player they went for turns for time, and he attached a what's it called, panic mask to his Duraludon V Max or something like that because he was playing the Dumbreon, and his opponent accelerated too many energies to Zacian V, so he couldn't blow it up because it had under 40. So he just has some mild moments. And in the top cut match, in game 1, he came back and Iono'd his Raging Bolt opponent the last 3 turns to come back from like a 6-2 deficit. It looked very convincing. Then he ended up losing anyway because then game 2 and 3, Raging Bolt did very Raging Bolt things, which I'll get into later. Caleb Gettimer won at the regional that I went to down in Louisville. We have Owen Rhodes and then obviously Calvin Connor. Hadn't won a regional yet, but obviously a standout player, always sniffing around top cuts, top fours, and everything like that. And our winner was Cal Connor. Cal, we'll get into it. I know we were talking just about the show, right? Sometimes like the regional winners really don't get emotional. You know, we had JW last year doing the chop wood, mechanic that he was going through, but we don't see a lot of emotion. It's kind of like the robots.
Yeah.
The last one that I vividly remember is when Connor Fenton won with during the Broken Lugia Silver Tempest days, and like he literally got up and like screamed at his crew. That was pretty cool. But Cal had recently lost his grandmother the week before that he posted on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so you could see him choking back some tears and getting really emotional. If you haven't watched the final, I know if you're not a Regidrago fan, you might not be a very big fan of Mears, but there was some pretty high level play going on between Callie, that's from uh, Canada as well too, a younger player, versus Cal. Went to game 3, and it literally came down to a coin flip. So remember the coin flip of NAIC, Andrew Hedrick, $10,000, right? We had another very big moment here.
$10,000 for coin flip.
Yeah, another coin flip because obviously the money increased this year for our regional winners. And Cal ended up using the lone executor. And it's really kind of a meme going around within the Pokemon TCG Twitter sphere because he flips the dice, takes a crazy bounce, it spins his Mew EX 360, then it goes over, and then it's tails, and he slams down on the Fezandipity EX to take the 2 prizes that he need, and then Callie's Mew EX went flying off into the distance. So
I
it
think
was really
Mew and an
cool.
energy or something too.
Yeah, it just like it's like a like a grenade went off on the stage. So it was pretty funny. I know a few people had talked about like the stream tables like crazy slippery because they don't allow you to have play mats, so cards slip and slide all over. But it was really cool. And game 3 had its drama. In game 3, within going through, Cal had to start Pheasantipity, attach Grass Energy, and pass because he ended up losing game 2, so he chose to go first. And Callie had a very good board established. And when Callie went through, the attackers were a lone Executor EX or a Gudra or a Giratina V Star, right? Callie did not have a gust option off all the resources, so they ended up probably doing the smarter play, which is a Gudra. Which, if I was in that moment, I don't know. The lone executor seems really tempting, but I'm sure Callie was very nervous of just getting V starred back. So I get it, right? You're doing the percentages. And then Cal had a crazy response. So his Pheasantipity takes 200 damage. And then he had a turn of all turns to kind of swing momentum back. And then it went back and forth and obviously came down to the coin flip. But I know Cal's, we won't really go over deck list because it's pretty much at this point in the meta where things are kind of just found out. Cal was the only one that actually was playing a temple still. Everyone else had kind of cut that either for a jamming tower or no stadiums was kind of the new way to play it, which makes sense because if Raging Bolt kind of goes down, I still think jamming tower, I guess, and cloth would be vital, but I still play temple in mine. I still because it's good against everything. It's particularly those that excuse me, your worst matchups. It's good against, and then I think at this point Regidrago just kind of sacks and takes the Elder Raging Bolt because if it's not going to be at the 10 to 11 to 12%, now of course it's probably the next regional in San Antonio is going to be on the up and up maybe again, but we'll see. But I know from you here, we talked a little bit before, but it's just like, wow, what what a top 8. And ASIM cut, there's, like I said, Lugia, Kieran Farah made it to there, but he unfortunately suffered some brick hands. But this is the last kind of big hurrah that we have for, I think it's mid January is when San Antonio. I can't remember if there's one in Europe before, maybe an SPE, but I know we kind of have like a month off, I think. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Michael, of just where we're at within the meta, and will anything change over the next few weeks before San Antonio?
I mean, it is what it is. I'm not surprised, to be honest. I think even Caleb Rogers here on the comment section said the same thing. Surprise, surprise. I I'm not surprised that we see a Drago dominated tournament yet again. I don't know. I think that San Antonio will be similar. I don't think we'll see 6, maybe 2, 3, 4 at most, but I think we do start to see more Drago counters coming back into play. If there is, it's one of those. I mean, obviously, it's kind of hard to counter it necessarily in terms of weakness or anything like that because it's Dragon, but there are ways to play around it. I think we'll see Lugia come back up. I hope Lugia comes back up and people trust in that deck still. But yeah, no, to be honest, I think the Alone Executor, one of the things that I personally think made this list so much more powerful is that card, and just being able to eliminate things off the board with the flippable coin. And I do think, I don't know, I don't think it plays 100% into why you see 6 here in Top Cut or in Top 8, but I do think it has a significant role to play in this deck doing well at this point in time too. But no, I mean, I don't love it. Obviously, I've played Regidrago. I'm not a huge Regidrago fan. I even took it to a tournament a couple times.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I played it in a league challenge up in New York when I went back in August, I think is when it was.
Sometime around Worlds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, I've played it, and I don't know. I'm not a fan, personally, but obviously other people have better opinions than I do because they win tournaments with it and I don't. So here we are in a Drago. We're in Drago's world, so we're just living in it.
Yeah, that's, like I said, best deck in format right now. The top players
Absolutely.
play it for a reason, and you're able, because of the various attackers that you can do, you're just able to make some of those crazy turns, and particularly, in a 4 research deck, and you have basically a really really good ability. I remember when I first, like, the V Star for that, and I was like, I would never V Star. I'd just rather use a 4 Seal Stone. Like, I even remember having that conversation before Twilight Masquerade, when I
Right.
was still trying to play it. Right, I was trying to play TM Turbo Energize, all that sort of stuff, because it was just too slow.
Yep.
Particularly when the Paradox Rift set came out, and then Temporal Forces, obviously before we started to get the Ogre Pawnee X's. And so I just recalled of, like, trying to do weird things with it. And I was like, well, I don't want a Legacy Star, because why would I go through? But obviously now with these builds, it's just getting 2 cards back. And that's where we
Yeah.
talked about the Baby Toad Scroll in the Dragapult Thorns deck. That stonks. Whatever you're playing, because there is just so much Pokestop out there still. And yes, it stops off the Legacy V Star as well too. Starts off Night Stretcher. That card just seems like it should be a one of. And I know, not this past Elite Four, but the Elite Four last year for Japan, where they kind of do, like, whatever, they have that cool, like, tournament, like, their top players and stuff. I remember Zard, even back when, a player that played a Zard, or he played Zard, but that was his tech. He had the Toad School and Toad Scroll to turn off Pokestop and other things, because Chimpao was obviously a very relevantly thought. But I digress. Sorry, everyone. If I was feeling better, I would be drinking something and saluting, but maybe next time, because it doesn't rotate here for at least another few months.
There's a good
But
chance you'll get to try it again.
yeah. Well, yeah. So tune back in here. Once again, once we go through, obviously we have, it seems like, about a month off, but we did get some news that we talked. We couldn't cover all the news last week, actually, which was, we kind of got dumped on last week, but we do have our next full set list. So obviously the Prismatic Evolution, even though there's like 170 or 80 cards, it still is a mini set, so there's no booster boxes. So our next official set is going to, we did get a name. And do you want to touch on this? We did have just some news that came out towards the end of last week.
Yeah, the name of the new set coming out in March, I think March 28th, if I remember correctly. Yeah, March 28th. It's called Journey Together. Interesting set name. It doesn't flow as well as some of the other ones, if I'm being honest with you. But I understand the reasoning behind it, and it can't be called Gym Leader or what, I don't know. But anyways, this is a set where we're gonna start to see the so and so's Pokemon. We're gonna see Lily's Clefairy, In's Zoroark, Marnie's Grimmsnarl, In's Reshiram. I can't talk today. Uh, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But we're gonna start to see all of these Pokemon come back out. The trainer Pokemon. So we don't have a ton revealed. And I think this is all speculation too. Roughly 180 cards before secret rares. So um, pretty standard, if I am thinking correctly. Um, an estimate of 6 ace specs. No idea on special energies yet. And that's about it. We don't even really have access to what the trainer cards are going to be. Safe, I think it's safe to say
Give it,
we're
yeah,
going
give
to.
it another month-ish or so,
Right.
and then we'll probably start seeing a whole lot more because
Mm-hmm.
the set will obviously probably come out, end of February or very early March for Japan, I'm guessing. We won't comment on when exactly the rotation will hit. Obviously, it's always been, before EYC, but this is kind of the thing, right? I get the journey together, right? Because you're going on a Pokemon journey. So
Right.
it's, my superior, for example, right? But with
Interesting.
EYC getting moved up to the end of February, oh, do you have some
Yeah, I was just
breaking news?
looking. I forgot that Justin Basil does this. So under you could look at the upcoming releases. So you said like February, but we're gonna start to see at the end of January, um, battle partners collection file for Lily.
Oh,
Then we'll see some decks coming out for Marnie's Morpeko and Grimmsnarl and Steven's Belt and Metagross. So we'll start to see some of these in the end of January. So we'll have a.
yes.
So it seems to me
It's
like
it's almost exactly like the Sylveon EX and
yeah,
the
exactly.
other EX. Oh, Cerulege EX, right? Those
Yep.
came out as those,
Yeah.
and we saw those, and then that's when we saw maybe a few trainer cards or like an A spec and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it should be interesting to say the least. I'm kind of excited for those just because it will be new cards, and likely with these being tournament legal in early April, April 11th, I guess would be the 2 week date. Again, don't know. Might have a rotation sometime around March or April. I just we're never paired up with Japan as close as we should be, which is unfortunate. But another swing. I guess the only other comment that I had here is since they moved EOIC to the end of February, which your birthday
Yep.
weekend, as you said, another IC where we don't have new cards to play with. Yes, we'll have the prismatic evolutions, but those will have already been established within some regionals and
Yeah.
SPs and the online meta, etc. Right? Because we get that almost exactly a month from now.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think this was just a whole Big Pikachu, the Pokemon Company over in Japan, and then the Pokemon Company International in the States, just not communicating and lining things up? Like, what's kind of the downfall of this? I one as playing, but also watching EUIC and LIC. That was always the most fun because you saw Tord's new deck, right? You got to see
Yeah.
his Guardy, then his take on Charizard last year where he won. Uh, just
Yeah.
seems like another swing and a miss.
I don't understand it. I surely with as big as both corporations are, they communicate. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what the end goal is here because it seemed like at a point there's a point in time middle of the year or even earlier this year where it really felt like we were kind of getting close to being aligned with Japan and their releases, and then it's just kind of I don't know. They've backtracked, it seems, and it's kind of I don't know. It does suck. Like in a lot of ways, it is fun to see these new decks, and now we're gonna have a major IC, and it's gonna be the same thing we've been seeing, and
Yeah,
perhaps we're gonna see another Drago centric EUIC. I don't know, but no, it would be cool and it would be exciting to see some changes.
yeah,
Um, yeah, no, I do think it's a little bit of a whiff on um, the part of Big Pikachu number one and Big Pikachu number two, bigger Pikachu, I should say, and
yeah.
Big Pikachu. So,
Father
uh,
Pikachu probably is
Grandpa
the right way.
Pikachu and Father
Yeah,
Pikachu.
yeah,
Yeah, no. Again, it is what it is. We're still gonna be talking about Pokemon and still playing the game. So, um, not much we can change, but it would be nice if there was a little bit more parity between what we see here outside of Japan and what they see in Japan. especially
Right.
because we play the same worlds format. So I don't, to me, it still just doesn't make sense that we're not already aligned. Um, but I don't know. I'm not the one making the calls and the decisions there, but it'd be nice to see.
Right. Yeah, and there hasn't been like an official announcement of like when things rotate in Japan either. So,
Yeah.
because normally that coincides, but like I said, just there's been speculation, of course, but again, we're not going to comment on anything until we actually see something and more. Than this is what we got. We got an actual date. It's like, well, we can at
Yeah.
least talk about that. But if you tuned in last week, you should have heard Michael's and our favorite top 5 decks that we played this year. Again, this isn't saying that it was the best deck or anything of that nature. This just goes into our hatred, I guess. So maybe we should have started with this because obviously getting closer to Christmas, talk about more
I
positivity.
know,
But
right?
it was fun talking about it last week. But I'll let you lead off again. We'll just kind of go from 5 to 1 again,
Yeah,
with
just like we did last time.
five being that we can stomach it. We definitely don't like it, but we can maybe stomach it more than number 1. So what was your fifth?
Yeah, this is one that I think a lot of people may forget about or may not. It may not live in people's minds as much as it should have, or I don't know. But what I put was Inte Valiant. I just remember there being a handful of games for a period of time where I just kept getting donked by Inte Valiant. Um, it's obviously not a deck that withstood the test of time, but it was pretty annoying when it was around. I vividly remember being at a League Cup and in round one, literally sweating bullets because I'm playing Charizard and I
Ah,
start a lone Pidgey in the active spot, and I have no idea what this person sitting across from me is about to flip over. They flip over Entei and then an Iron Valiant. I'm like, all right, cool. I go first, and I'm just like, I don't hit Battle VIP because this is back when VIP pass was still in
yep.
there. And so I literally pass my turn with a Pidgey in the active. And this whole time I was like, cool, this is an amazing way to start a League Cup. Fortunately, my Pidgey did not die, but it came really close. But that, there were plenty of other times where I played that deck, where I played Charizard, and I got donked by Entei Valiant as well. So I do not have fond memories of the deck. I've tried it myself. I personally never experienced a donk opportunity. I didn't give it a ton of chances either, though, because it was one of those where um, I can't remember. I think it was Tyler Matthews had a really good version of the deck. I think they had a barrel in it or something at one point around Charlotte
Yeah.
time. But I never really had success with it. So that's my I could stomach it. I understand. I think it's a decent deck. I've played it. But definitely not one of my favorites.
Long forgotten about. That was the LAIC 2023 runner-up list to
Mm-hmm.
Miraidon Iron
That's
Hands,
right.
right? If you're
Yep.
going through, when you're talking about donks, because that's I played not the exact version because obviously the Baby Blood Moon has 2 fighting energy and then a colorless, but you play a jet to kind of get into the active. But I did was able to pull a dunk off versus Regidrago, or not a dunk versus Carlos. He had his only one Regidrago V, and I was able to dunk it on my first turn just because I was able to do some Iron Valiant things. But that's where I said is, boy, if you don't see a supporter kind of following up your one big turn, you're just sitting there sweating because you
Yep.
really don't have another attacker. And the Entei was much more of a streamlined attacker.
Right.
So
Exactly.
my fifth will be Iron Thorns, just the quad thorns. But I did want to put this is the so in one of my top 5 favorite decks that I played was Rapid Strike Inteleon and Urshifu VMAX deck. I want to have this here only if it's piloted by Drew. I think I was like over the century versus him for this. He just owned me with this, so I wanted to put this as if Drew's playing it. It is. I don't like playing against it because he was a very very good pilot, but I'd Quad Thorns would be my official statement. I don't really. I appreciate Path to the Peak. We'll probably get into some Path to the Peak decks later, but for this, you're just playing toxic, cards the whole time, the coin flips, all that sort of stuff. I just have never appreciated it, and that's why I guess I've always appreciated canceling Klo now and Regidrago ever since. But that's mine. Not really much to say. I know it won Worlds, but I just when you're only playing 4 Pokemon, I don't know. I don't view it as a viable deck. So, what goes into your fourth?
Number 4 for me, another one that's not as high on the list for a lot of people, or maybe it's one that's more forgotten, but Future Hands. I do think it goes without saying though. I'm a Lugia stan, so Future Hands was a really annoying deck for me to have to encounter, especially when they could just easily take 3 prizes on me.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing more to say about that one other than it just was annoying because of that. Everybody remembers Jake Gearhart's diatribe on Iron Thorns, or
Iron
Iron
Hands
Hands
EX. Yeah,
being
yeah,
the basically the end of the Pokemon TCG, which it hasn't ended the Pokemon TCG, but it was pretty annoying to play against, and it just went fast. Another one of those fast decks, just like Entei Valiant. The Future Hands deck just flew, and when it got going, and it could, it would do its thing. So
yeah,
I'd put that on my list. But again, it was stomachable. I've played it plenty of times as well.
yeah. I had on my fourth, I had Stall, which is Block Lax. I have always been a favor of like the Pidgeot control. I understand that sometimes, yes, they do play Stall, but not all versions do. Like I like the Luxray kind of attacking your hands and going through, but the Stall has always felt not favorable with me, just because you're not essentially do anything. I do know for people that get in of like Aaron doesn't like alternate win formats. No, Great Tusk Mill is probably like my third most played deck over the last like 6 months. I do appreciate that, but you're at least like attacking in that sense, right? Because you're trying to
Yeah,
deplete the resources. I know Stall is a resource games, but it's just I just it's annoying, right? Because they play the pal pad. You try to even like attack their Arvins if you go through. Because I know before Regidrago really got off, I kind of played to control Regidrago a little bit. So I was even playing my own Eerie, and this was really for the Zard matchup because you didn't have Teal Mask Ogerpon to one hit KO it. So I was trying to deplete my opponent sometimes with playing a sneaky Eerie or a Misfortune Cinders just to one off, just to deplete their rare candies or try to hit those powerful counter items. But when they get the first counter catcher off, man, it just is demoralizing. Um, I can appreciate the Cornerstone EX and Noivern deck that came out. What was that? Baltimore, I think. One of the first regionals this year. That was kind of cool. Because at least you're attacking still in that sense. But still, man, the blockability never has felt good for me. So, what goes into number three for you?
I would like your number 5. I think is what it
Mm.
was. I put Quad Thorns. Um, in my notes, my simple explanation of it was, I know it won Worlds, but the deck is just dumb.
uh,
It is. It's a
uh,
stupid deck. Again, not trying to throw shade at it winning Worlds and the player that played it,
it was a
because
meta call.
yeah,
Meta call. Yep.
absolutely. But the deck is dumb. You literally have 4 Pokemon. You like, hmm, I could go on for days about why this deck is dumb and the fact that you literally can sit there and mulligan time after time after time again. But I will refrain and I will digress here. But Quathorns,
Yeah.
not my least favorite, because there are 2 that live rent free in my mind, about it, but I still hate it.
Yeah. The Michael Pramerat, who's been done on has been on our show before. He was a judge in Toronto, which was kind of cool. And Chip actually did an interview with him, so that was kind of cool to hear. You haven't really seen him playing
Yeah.
very often, but I know he was tweeting. Canson Clone goes really hard in Lugia right now, and he was tweeting that a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if Kieran's posted his deck list yet or not. I haven't seen it quite yet, but I'm curious if he would have played any sort of clone in that. I'm guessing not knowing Kieran, he probably just ran the same 60, very
Yeah.
consistent, for research, 3 or 4 boss type of build. But yeah, I reread it. It was like the deck is just dumb, and that made me that made me giggle a little bit. So number 3 I had is Gardevoir, and this is pre-rotation Gardevoir. I have played quite a bit of Gardevoir, but um, as we talked a little bit before on the pod, is if they ever got 3 Curia set up, it's game over. Heaven forbids 4. But this one, particularly in the pre-rotation, their turns lasted so long
It's painful.
because you had level ball, you had battle VIPs, then you had fog crystal to go get an energy or a basic, and it just you couldn't really stop it, and you could see it coming, particularly when it got the reversal. And as we saw it, basically almost won Worlds, lost in time with Tord piloting it. But I like I guess the newer version of Guardy, because the Monkey Dory is kind of really cool and it's a little bit different. But this one, man, it just is like, okay, if you go second, I'm just gonna get up and walk away, use the restroom, let the dogs out, and come back, and then like, okay, there's been 8 minutes. Now I finally get to play my turn, which could have been attach pass back then. But it like I said, I don't really call this one toxic. Toxic. It was a good deck. I played Gardevoir. It's just one that I did not like to play against whatsoever because, again, it was kind of the avalanche thing. You saw the avalanche coming and it was going to come crash down on you. You just could not stop them. So, and this was before Pheasantipity X, so the Ionos stuck a whole lot harder. But now we'll get into our top two.
Number 2 for me is Rapid Strike Inteleon Urshifu. It's one of those where, it kind of had like I don't know, it felt like a short-lived period of time where it was kind of up there at the top tables and just you saw it everywhere. And even then, it wasn't the most popular deck in the room. I know Cyrus Davis piloted it back in the day, but it just, to me, the damage spread was dirty. Like, it was tough
Good
to beat.
ability. Good
Yeah,
ability on that Inteleon
inc-
VMAX. Tell
yeah,
you what, very good
incredible.
ability.
And so yeah, no, it's not that I'm gonna make the stipulation, or I'm gonna make this point here that my top 2 decks, I'm not saying that I don't like them because they're dumb decks. Because if I did, I would put Iron Thorns at the top of my
Right.
list. I don't like them because I just never could consistently win matches against them, and it felt like they were
Bingo.
the bane of my existence. So yeah, so that's where I would put it. It really kind of like dampened my run at Charlotte at my first regional.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was on Lastina. That just wasn't a great matchup. Like you would think, yeah, cool, I can just wipe off, two VMAX Pokemon and then do a good and win quick. But no, they were the better deck in that matchup for sure. So
Yeah, and if they were able to get a hold of your Tina V or Tina V,
oh
if
yeah,
before it got to the V Star,
mm-hmm.
then it was yikes
Yeah,
type of thing. But kind of one of those too. Once the damage spread started going, there wasn't a whole lot of healing right to go through.
nope,
We did play it with Turo Scenario started to come in when that first got released for
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Scarlet and Violet before rotation, but it's one of those you see the damage spread and you're kind of going like, yep, I'm going to lose, in the next 3 turns because they're just going to continue to kind of get me where they need to be.
Yep.
Number 2, I had you'll get a very good sense of feelings from my top 2 decks here. So I had the Fusion Mew VMAX, Genesect V, and Meloetta build. I can appreciate as a scholar and a college graduate the Path DTE version of Mew being more sophisticated and a gentleman's deck. The Fusion Mew Meloetta felt like high school. You're just plowing ahead of no regards to anything. Being able to have a tiny little Pokemon be able to swing and do 280 never was enjoyable, right? And then they had the power tablets, right? That did 30 plus extra. So like they
Yep.
were able to hit their huge numbers.
So
And
fast.
yeah, it was just so fast. And back then I didn't like it. I played quite a bit of Mew. I shouldn't say quite a bit, but quite a, fairly often would play the Mew DTE just because I like the path. I like the Judge package, right? The 4 lost vacuums, basically the table mons, Pablo Mez's deck that he did really well with. I think he top forward at UIC a few years ago, but more of that version. But this one was just, if I'm playing a Pokemon V, right, or if I'm, I guess, Lost Box kind of, right, but if I bench a Giratina V, they sweep it up because they play a stupid Cramomatic and flip a heads and then go get a card, and it just is another one, a lot like the Guardy, where a lot faster, but their turns took forever. And
Yeah.
you just sat there and you're like, you're just wasting all of my clock in this matchup because you're going forever. So, yeah, the Fusion Mew Meloette, I want to make a distinction, not the Mew Double Turbo. Um, so fast, man. Yeah, Elissa Sparkle, and then you just knew it was game over.
Yep.
And I'll go, and you couldn't really go first to get them right because if you're trying to evolve, because then they have the turn 2
Right.
dunk, so then you go turn 2. Well, then now they got Mew VMAX to play 4 power tablets and take out your Arceus V. So I could go on a rant for that for a little bit longer, but we'll have some time for our top list, our top most hated decks of 2024. What took the cake for you?
Number one, it is not Snorlax Stall, despite some of my local friends might think that Snorlax didn't even make my list. I actually
No.
had a lot of fun playing that deck towards the end. Um, Not towards the end, but I had a lot of fun playing it. For me, though, my least favorite deck, maybe of all time. No, I'm just kidding. Not of all time. But of the last year has definitely been Guardy. And simply for the fact, well, and I'll backtrack, pretty much every variant of it, not
Yeah.
just pre-rotation or Guardy, but it's annoying. It takes forever. There's been many instances where I have teched specifically for it. I remember taking Charizard to a tournament knowing I was going to see a ton of Guardy, and so I threw Avery and Lost City into my
Lost
deck.
City is such a good stadium.
Just,
I wish it was played more.
I
Just
know.
it's not. Yeah.
I know. But yes, I vividly remember running up against one of my good friends, Riley, and playing them. And I busted both the Avery and the Lost City out. And like, dang, you really did tech for this deck, didn't you?
That's what I
So,
kind of like about locals. You kind of know people's flavors, so you can throw
mm-hmm.
kind of a couple very specific cards that
Oh, yeah.
target very specific people and or deck choices.
Yep. And even in Lugia, there's a time where I was playing the broken Lugia where you were running two Iron Hands, and just like really hating on Guardy there as well to be able to just go Iron Hands, Iron Hands. It was not just the two Iron, or not to just the two Iron Hands, but also Legacy plus a Lightning to where I would be able to do both, and use both too.
Oh,
So,
sure.
um, yeah, no. Again, I respect the players who play it because they are in many cases some of the better Pokemon players out there because it is a very skill intensive deck. But it just takes way too long. It's not fun to literally sit there and watch them play Pokemon for what feels like an eternity, only for you to just quickly lose because of them just putting everything together. And like, even if you're like up, you've got two prizes left, they have six. Before you know it, you're still just cooked.
Yeah.
Well, not
Yeah.
before because it took them like 25 minutes to get there before that, but you know what
You
I
saw
mean?
the writing on the wall
Yeah,
of this is
yeah.
how they're gonna win.
Uh
I'm
huh.
gonna get Iono down to 2. They're gonna take out my only attacker, and then
Yep.
I'm praying for a top deck. Yeah.
Exactly.
So mine's a little bit different. My top most hated. I don't like when I would play on either PCTGO or now when I force myself for live or any time in person. I don't know, like if you beat Guardy, with whatever deck you're playing, did you kind of have like that sense of like vindication of like you really kind of got a little like more pep in your step of like yes, like kind of a fist pump type of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it
Okay,
always
okay,
felt
all right.
absolutely
We're on
like
this we're on the same wavelength.
yeah. Like I remember there was another cup that I went to where I was playing the double Iron Hands and I opened up against the Guardy and I got to just go, amp you very much, amp you very much, amp you very much, and just 1 in 3 turns. Like this is phenomenal. I love this
Yeah,
deck and I hate
yeah.
Guardy. Take that.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. All right. So I am the same way. Whenever I play Raging Bolt, whether it be on ladder or be in person, I literally lock in and being like, I hate this deck with a passion. So I'll go through. So like, why 70 times damage? Like 4 energy and you hit 280. Why? I get the Chen Pao, right? It's 60 times unlimited damage. I'm okay with unlimited damage input. But like Chen Pao, you're only going to get there with the stage 2, right? And
yeah.
you have to find the energies. With the way that Raging Bolt is, and again, I don't know if the game designers foresaw the foreshadowing, right, of Teomask Ogrepon in this deck. They probably didn't, right? Because the 70 times damage was like, oh, they can only attach and then they have to play Sadas. Like there's only a way. And then I suppose the Sandy Shocks EX, that's what it was played at a little bit before we got Twilight Masquerade. Well, they have to have damage and you can have 2 fighting energies back. So I get it a little bit more, but now this one is just that turn 1 donk potential, just like the Fusion Meloetta. I despise this deck with an absolute passion. I like that it is so reliant on Sawdust. And the only thing is that I hate it even more now is when we got Pheasantipity X. Like as a Drago, it'd be like, I've always played 3 Iono in my Drago list. It's what I played at Louisville. And still, if I was going to go up north, I had 3 in there because I think it's such a good card. But um, being able to Iona and kind of like offset them. But again, if you take that price card, then they go get the and then the Night Stretcher. It's just the Shrouded Fable release took this deck and like I probably made it a little bit more consistent. I know it can be a big brick, but I just hate the 70 times damage. It's 240 HP, and then you play Bravery
Yep.
Charm. Although, if they're gonna run against Cloth, like bring back the Ancient Booster Capsule, because then you can't get poisoned, and now you're 300 HP basic. Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here, Michael?
Pretty crazy.
I
I get
anytime
it.
I win, I get so amped versus that deck. I despise it with a passion, and I could probably talk a lot more on how much I dislike it. That's one that I probably like. Everyone that I named, I don't have like a hatred, but the Fusion Mew Meloetta and then the Raging Bolt, there is a tone of anger if you can hear within my voice that's cracking up. So that covers most of our main topics this evening. Again, if you fast forward through the initial opening, because you already know what it's going to talk about every time, but we will not have a formal episode next week. Hopefully, everyone's able to have safe travels, enjoy their time with families, Christmas. Like I said, we'll be anticipating the birth of our second child at some point next week. So I unfortunately will take a back seat from for the podcast for a few weeks at least. So you'll more likely hear Drew and Michael and or any guest that we can also get. But our PCS updates again. Thank you for everyone that played Friday evening. Drew winning with a Drew pile build, but played it very well. Right, good pilot, knows how to play certain decks, and it was kind of cool. Masquerada EX is still one of my favorite EXs. It just doesn't have a time for the meta right now, but we'll see. With rotation, getting these V stars out of here, I think it will be kind of a fun because now everything evolves up except for Raging Bolt.
Yeah,
For
Raging
our
Bolt's there.
Patreon, yeah, for our Patreon members, we're able to get all the code cards out. I might just post a whole bunch of them, just because again, I don't know how super active that I'll be, but we'll continue that. And also remember, if you're an Ultra Ball member or Master Ball member, please make sure to get your T-shirt ordered. I honestly would have loved to have 50 T-shirts sitting here of the PCS stuff, but truthfully, we don't sell that much, and I don't know. I was trying to get them to make sure they got to you, and then I'll reimburse you. If you don't believe me, contact Jeremy. He sent me a screenshot. I Venmoed him within the next few minutes, right afterwards, to go through. So please go ahead and get those. That should be in your DMs. I message all of those members. And then the team challenge update. I know there is a match going on tonight, but we did have the team Safari Ball, which is Andy and DK. They moved up to 6 points. And then they were able to actually sweep Jeremy and Carlos, who were previously in first. So we have 2 more weeks left of that before the top 2 teams will play in a Top Cup for, I think I made some PCS packs, and then I think I have some other goodies to include in there. So, and then also Pokey Bruce, who obviously was a previous host, still part of the community and everything. He sent me a pretty cool giveaway that I'm gonna do from NAIC. So again, if you're interested, get in the Patreon, and we'll, like I said, continue with the bi-monthly giveaways. I want to just say I appreciate everyone that's been listening. We've had a few new members actually join the Discord as well too. I don't know if you've seen that previously, Michael, but
Yeah.
continue to kind of find some new players. Actually, there's a Aussie that joined us as well too, and he said that obviously due to the time change, but he hopes to maybe catch in and play in one of the challenges or the open things that we go through. I did give Carlos admin rights to make limitless tournaments, so I think he was going to try to kind of continue to do that. So if you're hanging out, like I said, there's a safe spot for everyone. I know there's been a lot of chatter for the shiny black Rayquaza that comes out Thursday evening here in the States. So that should be fun for the S&B fans. But thank you to everyone that supports the show. Again, I won't be vanishing off the face of the earth or anything. Probably will take a few weeks off. And then we'll kind of get back into it. And then, like I said, I'm excited to see what the future holds next year for us. I suppose we probably will still have some sort of content get pushed out here in the next 2 weeks. But if you're looking for any more from myself or just mainly, I'm not really here to get any sort of followers, but just build the PCS community. But PCS_pod on X or Twitter, and then just search PCS podcasts. Kind of on Twitch, Patreon, anything like that, you'll be able to find us. Michael, I know you have a household, but I wish you a Merry Christmas. I'll probably DM you before,
Yeah.
but also just want to wish you that as I know you have some family coming in. Do you have anything this weekend for family and like events at all, or just mainly around Christmas time?
My mom's flying in on Thursday. We were going to do a family get together with kids inside the family. They were going to come here on Saturday, but with the kid, or with Graham having the flu and us kind of being unsure of is Hayden going to catch the flu or any of us, we kind of just postponed it till next week too. So we're going to do it on the 28th now, just to be on the safe side. Because who knows what's going to happen. It's one of those things, you know it very well as a parent. No telling what tomorrow's going to bring with sicknesses. So here we are. But no. But back to what we were talking about, you can find me at mheradiaptcg on Twitter or X, however you want to say it. Yeah, that's where I yap at when I yap.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Salute to Regidrago. Have a good rest of your evening.
Play Lugia.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
See ya.